Hey everybody, it's John here with the Cloud Bureau here with the third video in a series on creating and managing data dictionary reports in your Salesforce org. In this video, we're going to talk about what I call dictionary aware field management, and that includes creating fields with a data dictionary in mind, as well as managing standard fields which don't come with some of the attributes that we might wish to show in a data dictionary out of the box, and then also a special circumstance where we look at managing name fields for custom objects specifically. If you haven't seen the first few videos, you want to head over to our YouTube channel and look for the playlist called Creating Data Dictionaries in Your Salesforce org. All right, with that, we will hop into Salesforce and look at a couple of things. Now I'm in Salesforce. This is, again, a developer org. Caveat we always make is that if you are working with fields and data dictionaries and field classification, you always want to do that in a sandbox and then migrate it forward. The first thing we're going to do is look at what it looks like to create a field, keeping in mind the audience of our eventual consumer of a data dictionary. I'm on a custom object that I've created called the demo object, and we are going to create a new field called demo date. This is going to be a date field, and we're going to call it demo date. I will remove the underscore. Again, I always like to remove the underscore in the API name of fields and have kind of a system for that. Depending on the development sort of patterns for your org, that might be different. Now, for any field, doesn't matter how obvious the field is. You could say the demo date seems pretty obvious. We always want to put a description because that's going to show up in our data dictionary. Now, for a description, there are a few things that I always like to include. The first one is just a basic description of what the field does. So we will say a date field used to specify the date of the demo. Now, if there are other considerations that animate this field, the description is a good place to put those. Some examples of this could be a particular user group that asks you to do it. It could be the sort of development effort or sprint effort that you are in the middle of, that it's a part of, just so that you have as much information as you can about the context in which the field was created. We're just going to say this was created as part of demo logging implementation and used for longitudinal reporting on the incidence of demos on a periodic basis. Again, it's more than just describing the field, although that is important, and especially in cases where the field has a less obvious utility. It's also about putting in as much information as you can for your future self or for the future of someone else who might be managing your Salesforce org. The more you can externalize the information about sort of why a field came into being and why it's used, how it's used, where it's used, all of those kinds of things, the better you're going to be in the future. Your future self will thank you, and anyone who inherits the administration or extension of your org is also going to thank you. Now, I'm not going to put in help text. Don't necessarily need that. I'm also not going to put in a default value, and I'm not going to make it required. Now, if you think back to our last video where we talked about field classification metadata, one of the things you'll notice is that I don't have the capacity to specify that here, and that is one hitch in field classification metadata and its use. We'll go through with creating this field. I'm going to add this to the demos admin permission set. And I'm going to let it be on the demo object layout. So because we can't specify field classification metadata in the creation flow, we do have to go back in and edit the field. Now, when I do that, I'm going to say that the data owner is a user, and that's me. I'm going to say that the field usage is active, and you'll see here that I have Some specific values for that I like to use for field usage: active, administrative. That's for like a field that sits in the background of an object that's used for automation management or something of that nature. Deprecate candidate, which is something that's we might be thinking about deprecating, an unused standard field, and then something that is actively deprecated. So I'll say active. For data sensitivity level, we'll say this is low. I've changed that to low, medium, high. And we don't have any kind of PII or anything of that nature, so I'm not going to put in a compliance categorization value at all. Okay, I'm going to save this. And we have then added that information to our field. So again, the thing to remember about managing attributes of a field, our field metadata classifications that are part of fields in a creation flow, is that you can't specify those as part of the initial field creation. And so it's something you have to go back and do once the field has been created. In orgs in which I've worked, one of the things that I like to do is that anytime I'm migrating fields from a development org to, let's say, a user acceptance testing org or a staging org, one of the things that I always look for is that all of the net new fields that have been added or fields that have been updated have the information that I expect them to have from a field classification metadata. So they have that description, they have a data owner if that's in use, they always have field usage, and then if data sensitivity levels and compliance categorizations are in use, that they have those as well. So it can become part of your DevOps routine. Okay. Now, that's all part of creating a new field, thinking about the field's eventual appearance on your data dictionary reporting. You want to make sure it has that description and has any field classification metadata that you are using. You likely know that if you adopt a Salesforce org, it comes preloaded with a ton of objects, depending on the cloud that you have subscribed to. And one of the things that's true about that is that most of those fields, the fields that come as part of your cloud, don't have this information on them. So one thing that I like to do as part of an implementation, once we sort of know the object model for the implementation, is to just take a moment to go through and update this information for any in-use fields or any fields on an object for which we can specify them when we're using that object. So just as an example of that, we're going to go to contact. And again, I'm using a field that has a pretty obvious use, so the birth date. Nevertheless, when I edit it, I'm going to put in a data owner, and we'll say in this case again, myself. We'll say the field usage is active. The data sensitivity level in this case we'll say is medium. And we're going to add compliance categorization of PII and also marketing cloud. Now for the description, I'm going to say date field used to specify the known birth date of a contact or person account. We have person accounts activated in this org. Used for targeted marketing on a constituent's birthday. So again, it's not simply the description of the field and what it is, that's important, but also what is the context of its use. So in this case, we're just as an example saying that this is something that's used for targeted marketing on a constituent's birthday. Maybe we're sending them a card or some sort of special offer as part of their birthday. I'll save that. Okay, so we've covered what it looks like to sort of manage data dictionary information when we're creating a field, and also going back and putting that in on fields that come as standard fields when you set up your Salesforce org. It's worth saying that it is possible to manage pieces of the field classification metadata using some utilities that Salesforce have. So we're going to hop in and look at those real quick. This is this download and upload. Now, these are pretty limited in the sense that the data classification download only lets you download fields that have a specified value for data sensitivity. It's really just data sensitivity. And then also for this upload, it's also, again, something where you can only do data sensitivity level. So it doesn't let you do field usage. It doesn't let you do compliance categorizations in this case. But if you are just managing data sensitivity, this can be a bulk way to do that. And you'll see here that there's a specific format to the CSV file that you would use. Okay. I want to look at one other sort of specific situation, and we're going to go back to my demo object in this case. We're going to go to fields and relationships. And One of the really powerful things about the field usage field specifically is that you can use it as a way to get a dictionary of the objects that are in use in your org. We'll look at what that report looks like in a later video. But one of the critical things about it is that you want to have a field usage status on every name field for every object that you are actively using in your org. And you want to have a null value for the name field for every object that comes preloaded in your org that you are not using. And we're going to use that name field and field usage status as a means of scoping a list of objects that are actively in use in our org. And again, we'll see that in a later video. Now, the complicated piece of this with custom objects is that we can't actually use a UI to specify field classification metadata for a name field. So the specific name field that has the API name of name for a custom object. So if I hop into this field, I do not have an edit button, so I can't specify this information. That said, once again, we can hop into Visual Studio Code and manage this using the metadata API. I want to show you what that looks like. I have here, again, an empty SFDX project, and I've already set up a manifest to say that I want to try to retrieve the demo object, which is a custom object. I'm going to pull that into my org. And you'll see here that we now have this object and we have fields. Now the only field that's going to show up here is that demo date field that we created earlier in this video, but let's go take a look at it. You'll see here that we have the full name of the field. We also have the business owner user, which is my username in this org. We have a business status, that's our field usage. We have our description. We have the label for the field, whether it's required. We have that security classification, which is the sensitivity level. And then if there were compliance categorizations, it would also have that in here as well. Now, to get the name field, I have to do a kind of trick. You'll notice that when I pulled my fields for the demo object from the metadata API, the name field does not come in as part of the fields. And in part, that's because it's specified on the object itself. If you look here, you can see that the name field is the demo name. The name field is tracked at the level of the object metadata. However, I can add a file for the name field specifically to put in some of these attributes. So I'm going to right click on my fields folder for the demo object, and I'm going to say new file. I'm going to call this name, which is the API name of the name field, and then field-meta.xml. Now I'm going to just go over here and grab this demo date field, and I'm going to copy it, all of the information here. And then I'm going to paste it into my name field. Now the full name is actually name, right? That's that's the name field for almost every object in the org. An exception would be a task or an event, which is the subject field is the name field. But in this case, I'm going to change the field name, full name to name. I'm going to leave myself as the business owner. I'm going to leave the business status as active, and I'll change my description. Just getting rid of this description that's already here. I'm going to say a name field. And because a name field can be text or an auto number, I like to sort of say what that is in here. Used to specify the name of the demo. For the label, I can actually just get rid of that. I can get rid of the requirement. For the security classification, I'll leave that as low. And I'm going to get rid of all of this information. So I don't have to put in all of the metadata, just the things that I actually want to update. Now, critically, I have to put in the full name, so the API name of the field for the name field. In almost all cases where you're doing that, that's going to just be name. If I'm going to put in the data steward, then I would use the username of that steward in this business owner user metadata XML bracket. And then for the field usage, description, and security classification, which again is that data sensitivity, I do that here. Now I'm going to deploy this to my org. And you'll see that my org successfully ran, and then we'll hop back over to Salesforce and see the result. So again, nothing here now, but once I've pushed that field in, I have all that information in my demo name. Now again, we're going to use this field usage on name fields specifically to scope the object dictionary report for our org, which we'll see in a later video. And so this is something I always do with name fields, is to go in and at least put in the field usage so that we can use that to get the list of objects that we're using in our org. All right, so we've covered what it looks like to manage data dictionary information when we create fields, custom fields, when we update existing fields, and then also specifically how to manage name fields on custom objects. In the next video, we will start to put together some of these reports. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.